I missed the decimal point. So I had to go back to the client at the end, and no one caught it all year long on billings when they would pay their bills that they were paying 10% of what they should have been paying.
Oh, yeah, because it was lower.
So I had to go back and ask them, and this is back in 1988, 90, for like $300,000. He threw a chair. I took a picture of my daughter and set it in front of me.
Hey, Nicole, what do you get when a former corporate CEO and a do-gooding executive walk into a recording studio?
Well, Aaron, nothing, because the two of us are usually on my couch or Zoom, because wine.
You get a podcast created for Gen X women who are bought into the corporate world, but fed up with the BS.
I know. It's how to thrive the 9 to 5 or 6 or 7.
It's career therapy. It's comedy. It's definitely full-on authenticity. Basically, we give you tangible strategies to rise in your career without compromising everything else.
Because work doesn't have to suck.
Hey, welcome back to the Because Work Doesn't Have to Suck podcast, where we help Gen X-ish female leaders who are bought into corporate but burn out from the BS to rise without compromise. And this is Erin, your co-host, Nicole's better half. And if you're not aware, I'm a former corporate CEO turned speaker, business coach, and author. And most importantly, I'm completely obsessed with authenticity as a superpower, as a secret weapon. And I was able to crush it as a corporate CEO at the age of 42. And I did it, most importantly, without sacrificing like everybody else around me. And Nicole and I's mission is to help you do the same, to stop sweating it out and instead crush your career without compromising everything else in your life. In today's episode, we get to sit down with Barb Flitsch, who is the CEO of AMP LLC. Most importantly, she's a daughter, wife, mother, and now grandmother, who also happens to be a 35-year veteran of the employee benefits industry. I love this, with a love of getting stuff done, helping other women advance into their own power, and celebrating all the good stuff in life with awareness and gratitude. That is totally Barb. I know her. She's a listener. She's a colleague. She's a friend. And here is why I think you should stick around to listen to this one. Here are some of the things that you will hear. First of all, how the pandemic catalyzed her business, but also a new trend in the labor force. And I'm telling you, if you don't know about this and this terminology and this new sort of labor market twist, you need to know about it. She also talks about how she handled a $300,000 mistake she made by using radical honesty and authenticity, and her 3-year-old daughter's framed picture, which is hysterical. She also talks about what advice she has for her younger self to more quickly build credibility, and her process. We get really specific about her process to prepare for pushing back and having tough conversations, which she is a master at doing. She also shares literally a 5-word sentence that she uses when she pushes back on things. I absolutely love it. So simple. And then lastly, why, despite all conventional wisdom, her company, her multi-million-dollar company, doesn't have a website. She does it with authenticity. So that's why you should listen. Before I let you in on the conversation with Barb, though, one last thing. I wanted to remind you, I talked about this on the last show, that we're running a promotion through September 18th. I think on the last one I said it was a Friday. It's not. I was looking at August, but for about a month. So depending on when you're listening to this, it will be September 18th will be the deadline. And we are running a promotion. And if you enter yourself into this promotion, this contest, giving away a free 1-hour coaching session with me, which is over $500 value. And I don't mean BS, like I charge well over that. So I will tell you about that at the end. If you're interested in me giving you a big underdog push, if you've got something big you're working on or you're struggling with, this could be your time to have that free coaching session. I will tell you more about it at the end. In the meantime, enjoy the conversation with Barb Flitsch. I'm really excited to share your brilliance. As you know, we had a great conversation a couple of weeks ago, and I wanted to start with AMP. I want to sort of jump right to where you're at today. You have a company called AMP, and I think it's pretty unique in what you do. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah. So thank you for that. First of all, that means a lot coming from you. It is unique. And it started out of just a desire for something better. So a couple of my former colleagues, gal pals, and I, from what we always call the mighty middle, right? That we're the people that don't have the visibility, but actually deliver all the things, and know how all the sausage gets made. And hopefully prevent people from getting sick from it. We're working on a project, and it was miserable, kind of toxic. Just when you do this so long, you can see kind of how things could go and how things should go, and they just weren't going that way. And so they took me out to lunch and were like, my contract was coming up at the end of, this was in like middle of December, and my contract was coming up at the end of the month. And they were like, "Are you going to stay?" And I was like, "No, mm-mm." By that time, I'd been on my own for a few years, and I was like, "I don't need to do this to make a living." So, and they said, "Good, take us with you." So, I'd never thought about doing this with other people, but I'm kind of a people person. And so the idea of being able to be independent and being part of a team was really appealing to me. The bigger thing was, what if we could create something where, first of all, it's almost all women. And the experience that we've had in the healthcare industry in particular is you can be in this business for 30 years. And if you're in the room and you're supposed to have an opinion, somebody's going to question your acumen because you're not the dude. And I'm so tired of it. I was so tired of it, watching these women who know exactly what needs to happen just get hammered over and over and over again. And so what if we could create a place where, first of all, we focused on getting stuff done, not just sitting around and talking about getting stuff done. The second thing is, it's an environment where people have different brains, different skill sets, different acumens, and all of that comes to the table and doesn't get questioned, right? We challenge each other. We have meaningful conversations about what's the right thing to do, what's the best thing to do, how do we accomplish what we set out to do. But I'm not saying, well, do you really know that's true, or are you just making that up, right? So it's a place where your acumen's not questioned. And the other thing is, a lot of these people everybody has families, a lot of people have kids. And this idea that you should be able to go do that stuff and not feel bad about it or feel like you have to hide it as a part of your day. So that's what we set out to create. And I'm really happy to say, I think that's what we have. The best part of my work is, I was on a phone call yesterday with someone who has been leading for 20 years kind of product development in the well-being space for a very large Fortune 50 company. And she's like, I got off our last call and I was just so inspired thinking about what it would be like to work this way.
Yeah.
It's just, so that's what it is. It's really an opportunity for people to maintain their independence, but be part of a team, not bring all of the best that you've got, but also be surrounded by other people who can contribute and add and make it more.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of fun. I mean, we drink out of fancy glasses sometimes. We have little virtual wine happy hours. We're thinking about a golf outing that's mini golf for an afternoon.
I love that.
So that's AMP. And it's 5 years actually next month.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Well, and why I was so excited to have you on this podcast, as you know, you're also a listener, is mostly geared towards the corporate leader, the corporate female leader, because there are so many podcasts about entrepreneurship, and I never want people to think like the only way you can be happy is to like give it up, all of it up, and go over. But your story, I think, is so unique. I mean, you spent many years in the corporate world and had success and also had challenges. And so I want to dive into that. But your business also is a great example of, we think sometimes so binary, like you have a corporate career and then you have a consultant or really a consultancy, right? And you guys are so different because, like you said, you don't come in and spend, all your time on 100-page PowerPoints. Like, you come in to get shit done and not deal with the politics, not deal with the layers, but actually to move things forward with a bunch of people that want to get things done. And I think it's such a great example. I talk all the time about how people don't hate their jobs. They hate the BS. And I think you guys have found a win-win. You guys aren't dealing with some of the BS, and you're helping companies who don't realize that they need people that just aren't encumbered by that. What I've noticed, tell me if I'm wrong, is the last year or so, things have really skyrocketed for you. And I don't think it's just, what's the magical 3 years or 4 years or whatever. What turned on the burners? What do you think? What are the one or two things that really has had your business soaring?
Yeah, it's a combination of things. And it was a great question. COVID, honestly, one of the biggest things, because COVID changed so much for so many people. It, first of all, for me personally, it really made me step back and like think about how am I moving my life away from becoming a dumpster fire because of the work that I was doing. We've been married at that point for 34, 33 years. And work was getting in the way. So that had to change for sure. And then that leaves the vast open, like, but so what? Right. So then what? COVID made it normal to do this. Right. So we could work with people across the country. It liberated a lot of people from their jobs, really, right? Like a lot of people got laid off. A lot of people started having, and I'm talking, these are 20, 30-year veterans, right? But a lot of the consultants that I work with started having real conversations about what do I want, right? The authenticity, right? This is where authenticity shows up every day for us, because that's what brings people to us is, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to get stuff done. I want to feel successful and accomplished. And so, and the market, right? So corporate entities started saying, we have to have an ad hoc labor force that we can tap into. And again, it's funny how many times I get asked that question about, well, are you PowerPoint consultants or what? And I always say our job is to leave our clients better than we found them, whether that's the people themselves, the processes and the documentation that they have to work with when the next new person comes in, or the thing that they wanted to do forever. I mean, one of the things that we did for one of our clients, that she's had a dream for 10 years of this data warehouse thing. And the person that was assigned to do it quit. And in 24 hours, I had 2 experts embedded in the team and running. And 6 months later, it was done and ready to be used. You know, and crazy stuff. So that like when Dobbs came out, I'll never forget, we were on a meeting with her CHRO. And the CHRO asked a really simple question, like, how much does an abortion cost us? And instead of well, we'll get back to you on that, I was able to just pull up the number and give her the number. And I could just see, my client was on the call, and I could just see her just like glow that this was what she'd always imagined. I think those are the things, the market forces that enabled us to thrive all kind of came out of that. And then honestly, I would say it's a group of women that are willing to hold hands and trust each other to go get it done.
Yeah. Could we go a little deeper on the labor force dynamics? Because I think some of our listeners will be like, tell me more. Like, I missed that memo. I've just been working longer hours in my sweatpants and getting harassed about coming into the workplace since this whole pandemic. I am a big believer that there is going to be a workforce change, and that companies are going to get the value of this gig sort of working. Fractional is the new. Talk about it.
Yeah.
Talk about it. Let's hear. Tell us more. I love fractional,
though, right? So we're all at a place where we make significant amounts of money, and we work in the innovator space. So startups, right? We work with health plans. We work with employers, and we work with investment companies that have portfolio companies that they're putting money into, right? None of those folks can afford us full time, but they need some of what we can bring, but they don't need it all the time, right? And I think what's happening, what we see with our clients is there's a recognition that as they have fewer resources to get the same amount or more done, they just have to get more creative about it. And it's happening. And if you go out to, pick your corporate think tank, right? They're all talking about this. Institutes for the Future has been talking about this for the last 10 years. And we all heard about the gig economy and what that was going to look like. But the problem with that is that that's focused on a part of an important part of the economy that is perhaps at a slightly lower pay scale.
Yeah.
More tactical, not as seasoned. And the idea that CFOs have been doing this forever, right? Fractional CFOs have been a thing for a long time.
Yep.
We're just expanding that down a layer into the idea that, so you're a benefit manager or you're a team leader and your team got cut. I just heard about one yesterday. They got cut from 5 to 2. And what they did was they left the bottom layer and the very top layer and cut out the entire middle. Okay. So now you have people who are
the mighty middle. Mighty middle. Exactly.
People are expected to get this work done. They don't know how to do it. And the people that are sitting above them now, A, are trying to still work up, right? Yeah. And B, they haven't actually done this stuff probably for a while. So they're not really familiar with the day-to-day shenanigans that they have to deal with, nor do they have the time to deal with it. So we fill the sandwich there. And I think that's becoming a bigger deal in every kind of department that you can think about.
Yeah. I think this whole fractional thing is kind of the new, and not to confuse it, it's like the hybrid of work environment. And I think more people listening, if you don't understand the concept of fractional, which is essentially that you could be a part-time CFO or CMO or project manager at multiple companies. Maybe it's not 10, but it's 3.
No. Right.
Where especially new and emerging companies, they can't afford a head of strategy. They can't afford a full-time PMO head or whatever. So it's really a very different, and it really is taking the consulting angle, but not having people do the bullshit strategy PowerPoint, but actually do the real work.
It's a more embedded model.
It's a more embedded model. It's a great way to put it. I want to go to this concept of pushing back. Because you had given me a masterclass in pushing back, obviously not literally, but in some of the stories you've told that have inspired me. Talk to us a little bit about, how you deal with tough clients, tough prospects, and has this always been sort of a way you've operated, or is this sort of a newfound Barb trait where you're able to sort of push back when others might sort of cower a little bit or hold their breath?
Yeah. It probably, I used to think it was a character flaw. Truly. Like I was told it was a character flaw. And some of it has to do with a self identified wild abandon and willingness to just, so what's the worst that can happen? They could fire me. I've been fired and I've survived, right? So there's some element of it that comes from that certainty that I can make a living without having a job.
Yeah.
Which is different. And I understand that. I do. When I lost my job, the last big one that I lost, God, it was devastating. It was just devastating. But it didn't mean that the stuff that I was doing was wrong. Right. And separating those two things is really important. And so it is. And I think it started way back in the day, frankly, at Aetna, when I was a service rep. And we had this, there used to be a very clear delineation between what service reps did was administrative and what the EBRs and salespeople did was finance. Right. And what we're selling was complex financial products, right? Like, let's be real about what insurance is. And we had a year when they would cycle these salespeople through before they sent them on. And I happened to be in a field office that was close to the home office. And we didn't have anybody to do renewals. And it was back in the day when we had premium stabilization reserves and interest rates were 17%. Right? So our job was to get these companies to put excess money because they had a good year into these premium stabilization reserves. Well, they had nobody to do these renewals because the salespeople there weren't any. And I raised my hand and was like, just teach me. I want to do it. And they kept saying no. And I kept saying, but why? But why? Who else is going to do it? What's your answer then? Right? I got clients that want to renew. I got nobody to do it. What's your answer? So pushing back in the most politely Midwesternly way possible, right? Not to be threatening. It's not about threatening people. It's about saying what's in your self-interest. Let me help you get done what you need to get done. So that's when it started. And I not only took their training, but then I turned around and I threw myself on the mercy of Carolyn Weeder and Mike Fournier and all of these really excellent people who were kind enough and generous enough with their time to train me. So learning the financial side of the business did a couple of things, right? First of all, it convinced me, it made me really good at asking for money, which whether you're trying to get a budget for something you want to do in a department, or you're trying to raise investment funds, or whatever you're trying to convince people to do, money is one of the toughest things, right? And we are not trained to ask for money. So I learned to ask for money, and I happened to find out that I was really good at it.
What were the keys? What were the keys and what you learned or what you sort of curated in that sense?
Honesty, right? I mean, I had to go ask a client one time because I had, and accountability too, right? Like I had missed when we renewed these guys and the first invoice would come out and it was that green and white striped paper that we got stuff on.
With the holes on the side?
Yeah, exactly. And they missed a decimal point. I was focused on the fact that they added Canadian and US dollars together. And I was like, no, it doesn't work, guys.
So you caught that one.
I got that one, but I missed the decimal point. So I had to go back to the client at the end, and no one caught it all year long on billings when they would pay their bills that they were paying 10% of what they should have been paying.
Oh, yeah, because it was lower.
So I had to go back and ask them, and this is back in 1988, 90, for like $300,000. He threw a chair. I took a picture of my daughter and set it in front of me.
Before you asked?
Totally. Yep. I sat down across from him and he was like a labor boss guy and heart of gold, but really tough. Took a picture of my 3-year-old daughter and set it in front of me and said, okay, so the first thing I have to tell you is that I messed up. And what I've learned is when you say that to people, it kind of leaves them no place to go and not look like a asshole.
Yeah.
If they just hammer you on it. I've already said I screwed up. And it was the truth. I missed it. I should have caught them. There were other failures in the chain, but the first one was mine. And then it's honesty. And here's what I need you to do. I need you to do this. I think I could negotiate this for you, but here's the first position, right? So what I learned was the first thing is just be honest, right? You can't, and you can be mad, you can throw chairs, you can do whatever you want to do, but at the end of the day, there's no reason for you to suspect what I'm telling you. Right. And then be direct, be short, be succinct, just say what it is. So those are the things that anytime this happens is, I think, the things that I think about and plan the conversation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you've essentially been in some sort of sales position much of your career, right? Not necessarily always designated sales or even running our own company. You're also the sales arm, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a time when you've used this concept of sort of pushing back, I guess I'm calling it, because I feel like you're just so good at it with prospective clients or existing clients? Was there a time when you did this where it probably didn't feel like the thing you should do, but had a positive outcome?
Oh, so recently. I had like 3 in 2 weeks.
Tell us. We want to hear it. Whatever you can disclose.
Yeah. So the first one was, and again, my core principle is AMP exists for the ampers, right? So I don't have a corporate goal that I'm going to make X million dollars a year, right? We're opportunistic and everyone does well. And so that's part of the ethos, right? It's not about satisfying some external number. Are we doing great work? Are we making good money? Are we living good lives? Right. And so everything always comes back to that. And when we have a prospect that feels off to that,
Hmm.
and I'm fiercely, fiercely protective of my team and their autonomy and their acumen and their right to be heard as professionals. And so when we run across people who you can just tell don't come to this conversation with that kind of respect, that's a dead hard no. Now, we had a situation where we were trying to work with another organization. This was one of their groups. And so we wanted to be very clear, right? And so go back to the principle. We had meetings with these people. It was very clear this was not a fit. Like I had 5 people on the call, and we walked away from the first call and we did a roundup call, and they all went, mm-mm. Nope, 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 nope.
Why?
But
Why wasn't a good fit?
the CEO of this organization had an air that led us to all interpret his words to be, so this is my Midwestern, right? What I really want to say is the guy was a misogynist. It came through, dripping through everything that he said and his face. And in subsequent meetings, it just played out.
Yeah.
Right. But we wanted this relationship. And so with this other organization that brought them to us. And so I had that moment where I was like, okay, what's the message here? The message is we think we can help this company, but it's pretty clear they don't want our help. And I'm not going to fight that, right? Like I am not going to go hard and try and convince you of anything. There's lots of people out there that want our help. But the second thing was, this is not okay for this company. This person is going to be detrimental to the growth of this company. And the entity that brought us to that needed to understand that. So we had a big conversation. And again, this is the strength of my team. I brought this to the team and was like, you guys, I got to have a conversation with this. And this is what I really want to tell them. And what do you think? And several people on the team were like, ooh, really? Do you think you should say that? And I'm like, yeah, I kind of think I should. Our job is to give our clients the best advice we can.
Mm.
And sometimes that means telling them hard truths, right? In the nicest Midwesternly way possible, but telling them hard truths. So I ended up, it all spun out. We did what we needed to do. And it all came down to where we both landed in the place that this wasn't going to be a fit. And we said, fine. But then I went back to the organization that brought us and said, by the way, he said, I'm curious about why you landed there. And I said, well, it was pretty clear to us that our dynamic wasn't going to work for this person. And knowing what they're going into, I have just a comment for you. There's a lot of female executives in this organization that he's going to be dealing with. And I think it's going to be problematic for you.
Mm.
And he said, well, you're not telling me anything I don't already know. But I said, and I'm fine that it worked out this way. Really, we really want to work with you guys, but this was okay. And he said, well, that is the indictment of all indictments, as far as I'm concerned.
He got it.
Yeah, he got it. And again, I was clear. I was concise. I did not embellish.
Sure.
But I delivered a pretty hard message to those folks. And then I had one just a couple weeks ago, great prospect, like big name, folks you want to work with for a whole bunch of reasons. But what they were asking us to do was it was not feasible. And I went back to the consultants because this is our process. And we talked about it. We held hands and decided that the right answer is to say, no, we're going to take a pass. And I called the client and said, we do thoughtful, high quality work. And that's what you deserve for the money that you're going to spend. And we don't think that we can do that under these circumstances. I'm sure that there are companies that will want this business, but we're going to respectfully say, not this time. We'd love to work with you in the future. Like people are not used to hearing no.
Yeah.
Right. So she was pretty shocked.
Yeah.
So you ended up revising it and getting like a 6-figure project.
Amazing. Amazing. Now you say, and we all heard it, you're very clear and concise as you recant this, and you went to the client to tell him about the quote unquote misogynist, in a very clear and concise way, but I'm guessing a lot of our listeners are like, oh God, I don't know if I could do that. Do you practice it?
Absolutely.
Do you practice that conversation? Like, how do you make sure that you go in without the emotion?
It depends on what I'm doing, but sometimes I will literally start with the narrative and play it in my head. And the other thing is that I test it with other people, right? I have this amazing group around me that I can get a better perspective from somebody else who's perhaps more conservative than I am in terms of what they're willing to throw into the world, right? Or they have a better sense of corporately, that's going to be really hard for them. Actually, the reason that we ended up doing the work and changing this was this person came back and said, hey, I'm going to be in this is going to be rough with me for my boss and my boss's boss. And I honestly believe where there's a will, there's a way, right? So I said, okay, well, we can't do that, but what can we do? So you start with for the conversation, and then you have to ad lib from there, right? You got to go improv with where you head to it. But yeah, I will write it down, and then I will bring just the key bullets back with me to an index card that I might have on my lap.
Mm-hmm.
That's
the great part about virtual.
It's awesome.
Nobody sees.
Much better than writing it on your hand,
right?
Which I've done
back in the day. I love it.
Analog.
One of the things that I've heard you say, and of course I've heard others say this, but sort of just played out here, is this concept of anytime you say no, something probably bigger and better will come along. But I don't completely believe in sort of universal magic. What do you think? I mean, this is something I know you feel strongly about. What do you think is the practical side, the science side behind it?
That's a great question. Because you've heard me say this, right? Like, I do believe it's the universe. And when you say no, you create space for like nature abhors a void, right? So you create space for something better to move in. And saying no is really hard. And especially as women, I'm just going to go back to that. We're really trained not to say no. So it feels very awkward and unnatural. So part of it is it's a callus, right? It's a callus that you have to build.
Yeah.
And in corporate America, it's really hard to find a safe corner to do that.
To build that callus. Yeah.
How do you build that callus?
I think it's also just thinking about it. You have to have confidence to be able to do that. But once you do it, I feel like it actually probably fuels your confidence even more. So I think there's probably an aura of vibration, a way you're operating that you might not even know. The confidence that comes out of having gone through that tough conversation and survived it. And
yeah, I mean, I think part of it is, you asked about the science of it. I don't know if it's a science as much as
yeah.
But I go into these conversations, first of all, if I think I'm going to have to say no, I will hit pause and come back to the conversation. Right? I'll say, let me think about that.
Think about that, period.
Correct. Complete sentence. Let me think about that. And that makes them pause too, right? It's also a great negotiating tactic, by the way. Not sure that's going to work for me or for us if I'm talking about a team. And then going in very clearly about what I'm saying no to. Like in that circumstance, I was saying no to delivering a particular thing in a particular time frame, and the time frame was really the problem, right? So it was those two things combined, and when we were able to push that around, we couldn't change the time frame, but what we could change is what we delivered.
Yeah.
So I think it's a combination of being super clear about what it is that you're not able to say yes to, and what the potential is to find that way to yes, and also just being willing to walk away with, I got what I needed.
Yeah.
And that feels icky sometimes, right? We're not trained to want to do that. We want to find that everybody wins. Sometimes not everybody wins, but I get what I need.
Yeah. I love that. Hey, Erin here. Look, I am so happy you're here listening to the Because Work Doesn't Have to Suck podcast. But I'm also guessing that some days it can be tough to get over here. And you may not always have the time to throw in your earbuds for half an hour or an hour. So if you also want career and leadership tips, inspiration, and quite frankly, professional pot stirring, the best bite-sized way to get that from me is to connect on LinkedIn. Almost daily, I share tips, inspiration, and humor to help you, maybe your less than authentic boss too, be more authentic at work. You can find me by searching my name. I'm literally the only Erin Hatzakostas in the world, or at least the online world. So if you can spell it, you can find me. Or we make it easy. You can scroll down to the show notes and click the link there. See you there. One of the things I would ask you about, so you spent most of your career on the corporate side, and now even as an entrepreneur, you are, like you said, fractionally part of the corporate world. And what do you see differently? And maybe it's just your experience and age, or maybe it's the different vantage point that your younger self didn't see. And what would you tell that younger self that you see now?
It's very much about the human beings, right? Even in corporate America. And let me just say, it's easier, so much easier from the cheap seats, right? Like, I don't have to show up every day and face this well, that's not true. I guess I do show up every day and face these people, but I don't depend on them for my livelihood solely, right? So it's a different dynamic.
Yeah.
But and you mentioned age and experience, and I think that's two things, right? Because one is experience teaches us how to interpret, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I can look at a senior leader and hear the words they're saying and interpret what's behind it differently than my 30-year-old self could. Because now these people are my peers and they're my friends. And I hear the backside of what's on the face of what's in the office, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a very different way to experience the dysfunction, the just rampant dysfunction of corporate America. It's tough. And it's not, and we're in a position where we get to say, well, I had this conversation with somebody yesterday. I have this conversation almost every day, it seems like. Look, we said we were going to do these things. We're going to do these things. We're already 70% of the way done with these things. We can't make them come along. If they choose not to, we're giving them an invitation to come along and be better. And if they don't want to take us up on the invitation, we will still, just like I get what I need out of those no conversations, we're going to do what we said we were going to do. What they do with it after we give it to them isn't up to us. We'd love to help them make it real, but that's a choice that they have to make. And they're in a situation, this one particular conversation that I was having, where there's new leadership. They don't even know what the new leadership's going to be asking for yet. So I come back to, what is the human that you're sitting across from who's asking you to do this thing? What is their self-interest? How do you help make them successful? And that's a slightly different version of managing up. Like, I am not you.
Oh, it's a very different, I think it's a very different mindset and way you put it, thinking of them as a human and what do they need and want as a human, not as a 2 layers senior to you.
Well, you're the one that gave me and honestly, it plays in the back of my head in these conversations. You don't know this, but you're with me on a lot of days where it's like, oh, it sucks to be you. Right? I could hate you I could be irritated and angry with you for what you're asking of me. But compassion and empathy changes that whole dynamic. And honestly, it's selfish because it makes it easier for me. It doesn't make it any easier for them, but it makes it a lot easier for me to have a conversation and extract from them a way to help them that also doesn't compromise me.
Yeah. I love that too, because as you were talking, you talked about years of experience. They're now peers. My biggest question is, how does somebody fast forward that, right? How do you do that in your 20s, 30s, 40s? How do you fast forward that? And I think that is one of the ways you fast forward it, is you you really strip it down to what's most important to them. And it changes based on the day. I mean, I remember sort of learning the hard lesson, like when you start working for executives, they're going to be in a very different mood and want very different information from you if they're heading to a board meeting that day than if it's just a normal sort of going through meetings kind of day. Like they're going to be in like when they ask you a question on the day they're going to a board meeting, all they care about is the answer as succinctly and short. Like if the answer is 14, tell them freaking 14, nothing else in the email, right?
100%.
Like, and so really understanding day by day almost, what do you think is on their mind? What do you think is most important with the information that you have available?
And if you're not sure, ask.
Ask. Exactly. How they freaking know ya.
Because I think that's where it's, and my daughter's 30, right? So I see her go through this.
Mm-hmm.
And I am so thrilled when I hear her say, but I looked at it and I was like, okay, wait. So what does it do for the company's revenue? Right? Like, and she's like asking the question that is on everyone's mind, but no one knows how to ask it, right? Or they're too afraid because they're young. They haven't built their credibility yet. They don't have a place, right? But as an employee, and this is where I always talk about focusing on the work versus the job.
Yeah.
What is the work that needs to be done?
Yeah.
And getting really clear on that with somebody. And I think usually people appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's easy to think that the credibility then will give you the ability to do that. But the reality is when you ask those questions, when you challenge that's actually what gives you the credibility. It's the other way around.
It shows how you're thinking about it and you're thinking about the business.
You think about the business and what the metrics are for the person you're sitting in front of that may have a scorecard that is different than yours. I love it. So I have one more question for you, but before we do that, where's the best place to connect with you outside of this?
Part of our deal is that AMP does have a LinkedIn page. We do not have a website by design.
I love that.
Yep.
Authentic.
It is. And it's because of all the things that I've said, right? Like we're very selective about who we choose to work with. This is a really special group of people. And our clients have a vibe, right? Like they have an authentic vibe. Mm. And so we don't work with just anybody because we don't have to. And we're thrilled and we love our customers. And for the most part, I think they love us, right? Mm. We did a call a couple of weeks ago that we had customers on there saying they were blessed to be working with us. And again, when you focus on the human beings too, the other thing is that's the other credibility piece, right? Going back to your younger folks, that network is so important. So important. All these people are people I've been working with for almost 30 years.
Yep.
And that didn't happen when we were 20-year execs. It happened when we were 5 years out and couldn't find the bathroom.
Yeah. I love it. So last question, it's sort of broad reaching, but obviously we're all about authenticity in general. But is there a time, do you have a story of when what we sometimes call authentic so hard in your business, back in your career, and that authenticity gave you great success in the end?
The day that I called you first, and then I called 4 other people and told all these people that I had convinced to come along on a ride with me that I couldn't stay on the ride and I had to leave. I probably laid bare my soul that day. It was really tough, but the universe opened up the space for what has come since. But goddamn, those were hard phone calls to make. Really hard phone calls to make. It just, from the depths of my soul, it was tough. But that was authentic. That was the real deal.
Yeah.
And I've been doing things that weren't authentic to try and keep all of it rolling. And I needed to stop and get off the bus.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing all your stories. You inspire me every time we talk, and I know you're going to inspire our audience. So this was awesome.
Thank you so much, Erin. You inspire me too. I can't wait for the new book. I'm so excited. And as I said, you're in my head almost every day. Something from you to you pops in there when I'm in a moment of need. So thank you for what you're bringing into the world, because corporate America desperately needs this. So yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. Happy to chat.
I love it. Thank you, dear. Good to see you. Hey guys, it's Erin again. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. What we would love is a rating and review from you. And we say this all the time, and we get texts and emails from people all the time saying how much this podcast has impacted them or that they've shared with others. And we so appreciate it. But we want this podcast out to others. And the more reviews that we get, the higher our ranking, which means the more people see it, which means the better guests and the better production and money we can put into this thing for you. So if you can write a review from now until September 18th, so Friday, all you have to do is write that review on whatever podcast app you use. Google it if you don't know, and simply take a screenshot and send it to hello@beauthenticinc.com. That's hello at just the letter B, authenticinc.com. Shoot that our way, and we're going to put you into a drawing to spend an hour coaching with me. And I'm telling you, rock your world and help you propel. So go do that rating and review now before you forget. Hey, it's Erin. Look, I'm not sure if you're a book kind of person, but if you are, and you're looking for a self-development-y type book that isn't stuffy and snoozy, I sincerely think you'd love my book, You Do You-ish. I tossed aside the standard BS most nonfiction books dish up, and instead, I give you real, sometimes tough love coaching on how to think about getting the career you deserve without working harder. It'll reframe how you think about the concept of authenticity in the workplace. It'll be sure that you hear and rewrite your sucky songs, and walk you through my humans framework, the 6 principles of strategic authenticity. Since it's been rolling now for over 2 years, and it has over 130 Amazon reviews and a 4.9 rating, I can say with complete sincerity, I really think you'd love it. You can buy a copy by searching You Do You-ish on Amazon, or head to the show notes for a direct link.